Have you ever felt like an outsider in your own family? Like no matter what you did, you'd never truly belong? I spent 7 years trying to win over my in-laws, only to be told I would never be considered family. But last Christmas, my 10-year-old son did something so powerful, so unexpected, that it changed everything in just one night. Stay until the end to see how a child's pure heart accomplished what years of my efforts couldn't, and transformed a broken family forever. Welcome to Plot Twist Life, where we share real stories that show how life can change in the most unexpected ways. Before I dive into this emotional journey that still brings tears to my eyes, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more stories that will touch your heart and remind you that sometimes the most beautiful moments come after the hardest struggles. I still remember the first time I met Sarah's parents. It was a crisp autumn day, leaves crunching beneath our feet as we walked up to their colonial-style home in Connecticut. I had rehearsed what I would say, how I would present myself. After all, I was madly in love with their daughter and wanted to make a good impression. But the moment we stepped through that heavy oak door, I felt it. A coldness that no amount of preparation could have readied me for. "So you're the one dating our Sarah," her father, Richard, said without extending his hand. His eyes scanned me from head to toe, lingering on my tattoo-covered arms, my casual attire that suddenly felt wildly inappropriate in their immaculate living room with its antique furniture and family portraits going back generations. Sarah had warned me that her parents were traditional, that they had specific expectations about who their daughter should end up with. I wasn't it. I didn't come from money. I hadn't gone to an Ivy League school. I worked as a mechanic, owned my own small shop that I had built from nothing after dropping out of college. In their eyes, I was beneath their daughter, a temporary distraction before she would come to her senses. "Dad, this is Jack," Sarah said, her voice tight with that familiar tension I would come to know so well over the years. "The one I've been telling you about." Her mother, Eleanor, appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron embroidered with the family crest. She offered a tight smile that never reached her eyes. "Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. Sarah, come help me finish up." And just like that, I was left alone with Richard, who proceeded to interrogate me about my intentions with his daughter, while making it crystal clear that those intentions would never be good enough. That first dinner set the tone for what would become years of strained interactions. I tried everything to win them over. I learned about wine to impress Richard. I helped Eleanor in the garden when she mentioned her back was bothering her. I even started wearing button-down shirts and slacks whenever we visited, despite feeling like I was wearing a costume. Nothing worked. The barrier remained firmly in place. When Sarah and I got engaged 2 years later, her parents didn't attend our engagement party. "They're in Europe," Sarah explained, though we both knew the trip had been planned after our announcement. When we set our wedding date, Eleanor called to inform us they would be unable to contribute financially to the ceremony, though we had never asked for their help. The wedding itself was beautiful, despite their obvious disapproval. They attended, of course. Appearances were important, but Richard didn't walk Sarah down the aisle. "It's your life," he had told her when she asked him, "but we won't pretend to celebrate choices we don't agree with." Instead, Sarah's uncle escorted her, while Richard and Eleanor sat stone-faced in the front row, leaving immediately after the ceremony without attending the reception. It broke Sarah's heart, though she tried to hide it. I found her crying in our hotel room that night, still in her wedding dress. "They'll come around," I promised, holding her close. "They just need time." But time didn't help, and then came the greatest joy of our lives. Our son, Benjamin. Surely a grandchild would soften their hearts. The first time we brought our newborn to their house, I thought I saw a crack in their armor. Eleanor held him gingerly, her eyes misty as she counted his tiny fingers and toes. Richard stood over them, his hand on his wife's shoulder, a rare moment of visible emotion crossing his face. "He has the Wallace nose," Eleanor said softly, referring to their family's distinctive feature. For a moment, I felt hope bloom in my chest. Perhaps Benjamin would be the bridge between us. But then Richard looked at me, his expression hardening again. "Good genes will out, I suppose," he said, the implication clear. Whatever good was in Benjamin had come from Sarah's side, not mine. As Benjamin grew, his relationship with his grandparents remained distant but cordial. They sent birthday and Christmas gifts, always educational toys or savings bonds, never the action figures or sports equipment he actually wanted. They attended his school performances but left immediately after, declining our invitations for dinner afterward. When Benjamin was 7, the real blow came. We were at their house for Thanksgiving, one of the few holidays they allowed us to join them for, though it was always made clear it was for Sarah and Benjamin's sake, not mine. Benjamin was playing in the living room while the adults prepared dinner in the kitchen. I went to check on him and overheard Richard talking to his brother. "Of course, Benjamin is family," Richard was saying. "But Jack, he'll never be family. He's just the man our daughter unfortunately chose. We've accepted he's here to stay, but that doesn't make him one of us." I froze in the hallway, the words cutting through me like shards of glass. 7 years of trying, of bending over backward to fit into their world, and this was the verdict. I would never be family. I didn't tell Sarah what I'd heard. What would be the point? It would only hurt her more, force her to choose sides in a way I never wanted her to. Instead, I simply pulled back. I stopped trying so hard. I was polite but distant at family gatherings. I made excuses to miss some visits, letting Sarah take Benjamin alone. I accepted the truth. I would always be an outsider to them. But Benjamin, observant, sensitive Benjamin, noticed the change. "Why don't you come with us to Grandma and Grandpa's anymore?" he asked one day as Sarah was getting him ready for a weekend visit. "Dad has a lot of work at the shop," Sarah answered for me, our practiced excuse. But Benjamin's eyes found mine, filled with a wisdom beyond his years. "They're not very nice to you, are they, Dad?" Kids see everything, even the things we try to hide from them. "They just have their own way of doing things, buddy," I said, ruffling his hair. "It doesn't mean they're bad people." "But we're a family," he insisted. "And families are supposed to love each other." Out of the mouths of babes, right? Last Christmas was approaching, and Benjamin, now 10, had been unusually secretive. He'd been spending hours in his room, door closed, working on something he wouldn't let either of us see. "It's a surprise," was all he would say, his eyes twinkling with excitement. Christmas Eve arrived, and as had become our tradition, we were invited to Richard and Eleanor's for dinner. I had considered making an excuse, as I often did for these events now, but Benjamin had been insistent. "You have to come, Dad. Please, it's important." There was something in his voice that made me agree, despite my reluctance. Sarah was surprised, but pleased when I said I'd join them. "It'll mean a lot to Ben," she said, squeezing my hand. We arrived at the familiar colonial house, now decorated with tasteful white lights and evergreen wreaths. Benjamin clutched a large, flat package wrapped in paper he had decorated himself. Splashes of red and green paint, glitter and hand-drawn snowflakes. Eleanor greeted us at the door, her usual reserved smile in place. "Sarah, Benjamin," she said warmly, then added with noticeably less enthusiasm, "Jack?" Richard was by the fireplace, nursing his traditional Christmas Eve scotch. He nodded at our arrival, but didn't get up. The evening progressed as these gatherings typically did. Stilted conversation, pointed questions about Sarah's work, but none about mine, and lavish attention on Benjamin while I remained in the periphery. Sarah's brother and his wife were there too, with their perfect children and prestigious careers that Richard never failed to highlight. After dinner, we gathered in the living room for the annual gift exchange. Richard and Eleanor always gave extravagant presents to everyone. Everyone except me, that is. I usually received something impersonal, a gift card or a generic sweater that was never quite the right size. I had stopped expecting anything different years ago. But before the usual exchange began, Benjamin stood up, clutching his homemade package. "I want to give my gift first," he announced, his voice small but determined. Eleanor smiled indulgently. "Of course, sweetheart. Who is it for?" "It's for everyone," Benjamin said, "but especially for you and Grandpa." He placed the package in Eleanor's hands, then stepped back, watching anxiously as she carefully removed the paper, revealing what was underneath. It was a canvas, about 24 by 36 inches. On it, Benjamin had created a family tree, but unlike any family tree I'd ever seen, he had painted an actual tree, its branches spreading wide across the canvas. And hanging from those branches were small, hand-painted picture frames, each containing a carefully drawn portrait of a family member. There was Richard and Eleanor at the roots of the tree, Sarah and her brother on the main branches, the cousins on smaller offshoots, and there, right beside Sarah, was me. Benjamin had drawn us holding hands, with himself between us. But what took my breath away was how he had connected everyone with golden threads that ran through the entire tree, binding us all together. "I made our family," Benjamin explained as everyone stared in silence. "See, there's all of us. And the gold lines show how we're all connected, not just by blood, but by love." He pointed to a small inscription at the bottom of the canvas that he had carefully lettered. "Family isn't about sharing the same DNA. It's about sharing the same heart." Eleanor's hands trembled as she held the canvas. Richard had come to stand behind her, his face unreadable. "And look," Benjamin continued, pointing to the top of the tree where he had painted a large heart. Inside the heart, in tiny, careful letters, he had written everyone's name, forming the shape of the heart itself. Everyone's name, including mine. "We're all part of the same heart," Benjamin said simply. "That's what makes us family." The silence in the room was deafening. I couldn't look at Richard or Eleanor, afraid of what I might see in their faces, dismissal perhaps, or that same cold rejection I'd grown accustomed to. Then I heard a sound I'd never heard before, a sob, coming from Eleanor. I looked up to see tears streaming down her face as she stared at the canvas. "Benjamin," she whispered, "this is the most beautiful gift I've ever received." Richard's hand was on her shoulder, just like that day when Benjamin was born. But this time, when I met his eyes, something was different. There was a sheen of moisture there, and something else, something that looked almost like shame. What happened next still feels surreal when I think about it. Eleanor rose from her chair, still clutching the canvas, and walked directly to me. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around me in an embrace. "Thank you," she whispered, "for raising such a wonderful boy." And just like that, the wall that had stood between us for 10 years began to crumble. Richard approached next, clearing his throat awkwardly. "He has your creativity," he said, nodding toward Benjamin. "Your way of seeing things differently. I haven't always appreciated that quality, but..." He extended his hand to me. "I've been wrong about many things, Jack." I took his hand, too stunned to speak. Benjamin was beaming, looking between us all with the satisfaction of a plan well executed. Later that night, after Benjamin had fallen asleep in the guest room that Eleanor insisted we use rather than driving home in the snow, Richard asked me to join him for a scotch. The first time he had ever made such an invitation. "Benjamin's gift made me realize something," he said. swirling the amber liquid in his glass. I've been so focused on what I thought family should look like that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. He looked older suddenly, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. When Sarah first brought you home, I saw all the ways you were different from what I had imagined for her. I didn't see who you actually were. He took a deep breath. But my grandson sees you, and through his eyes, I'm finally beginning to as well. It wasn't an explicit apology, but from Richard it was monumental. The next morning, Christmas Day, was different from any we had experienced with Sarah's family. There was a warmth that hadn't been there before. Eleanor asked me about my shop, showing genuine interest for the first time. Richard invited me to help him prepare the traditional Christmas breakfast, a task he had always reserved for himself and his son. And when it came time to open presents, there was a small package for me from Richard and Eleanor. Inside was a silver frame, clearly an antique family heirloom. "For Benjamin's artwork," Eleanor explained. "We thought you might want one for your home too." But what meant the most was the card that accompanied it, signed "With love from your family." One gift from a 10-year-old boy had accomplished what years of my efforts couldn't. Benjamin had seen the invisible walls between us, and with a child's straightforward wisdom, had simply decided they shouldn't be there. The change didn't happen overnight, of course. There were still awkward moments, old habits that died hard, but something fundamental had shifted. Phone calls became more frequent. Richard started asking my advice about his car. Eleanor sent me recipes she thought I might enjoy. And 3 months after Christmas, they came to my shop for the first time ever. Richard looked around with new eyes at the business I had built, nodding appreciatively at the classic car I was restoring. "You've created something special here," he said. I wish I had taken the time to see it sooner. Eleanor touched a framed photo on my office wall, Benjamin and me covered in motor oil and grinning after we had fixed his bike together. "You're a wonderful father, Jack," she said quietly. "We're fortunate that you're part of our family." Family. The word I had longed to hear for so many years. A few weeks ago, Benjamin found me looking at his Christmas artwork, now hanging prominently in Richard and Eleanor's living room. "Are you happy now, Dad?" he asked. "Very happy, buddy," I replied. "How did you know to make that gift? How did you know it would change things?" He shrugged with that simple clarity that children have. "I just showed them what I could see all along. That we're all connected, even when some people can't see the lines." His words have stayed with me. Sometimes it takes a child's vision to reveal the truth that adults have complicated. Family isn't defined by blood or background or even by years of shared history. Family is created through love, acceptance, and the choice we make every day to see the invisible lines that connect us. Benjamin's gift wasn't just the artwork. His gift was showing us all a new way to see each other. That Christmas changed everything for us. A simple gift, created with love by a child who couldn't understand why the adults in his life couldn't see what was so obvious to him. That family is about what's in your heart, not what's in your DNA. I share this story because I know there are so many of you out there feeling like outsiders in your own families, whether it's with in-laws, step-families, or even the families you were born into. And I want you to know that walls can come down, hearts can open, and the most unexpected people can be the ones to bridge the gaps between us. What unexpected plot twist has changed your family dynamics? Share your experiences in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story touched your heart, please subscribe to Plot Twist Life for more real stories about life's unexpected turns. Hit that notification bell too, so you never miss a new video. Sometimes, the most beautiful family moments come from the most unexpected places. Until next time, remember that family is what we create together.